Hello and welcome to the Record Club, brought to you by Record Store Day, the official charts and National Album Day, and proudly in association with Bowes and Wilkins. My name is Jess Izzat. Thank you very much for joining us. We are excited to say that tonight's episode is a National Album Day special, and our guest this evening is Alt J to talk all about the 10-year anniversary reissue of their debut album, An Awesome Wave. This special vinyl is available from your local record shop this Saturday, October the 15th, which of course is National Album Day. If you're new to the Record Club, we're going to be spending the next half an hour talking to Alt J all about the brilliant new record, and then we're going to be putting forward some of your questions about the album for them to answer. So if there is anything you'd like to know about the record, whether it be about a certain song, the artwork, or a particular lyric that you've enjoyed, drop us a question in the comment section below, and I'm going to be asking a selection of them in the second half of our chat. On top of that, one lucky person who sends in a question today is going to be randomly selected to win a pair of Bowes & Wilkins PX7 over-ear noise-cancelling headphones. It's a wicked prize. Don't miss out. Get your questions to us. And of course, I have the record with me. It's the special green one as well. I don't want to get it out and get my fingerprints all over it, but yes, here it is. And you can get your own. We thoroughly recommend it. Head down to your local record store this weekend on National Album Day to go get your own. So let's get straight into this week's Record Club and say a big hello to Gus from Alt J. How are we doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. I mean, it's a special vinyl. What made you pick green for the vinyl?
Gosh, good question. I think that we've done various colours of vinyl over the years. The original one was sort of creamy, opaque white. And I think we just thought green, fresh, environmental connotations. We're all thinking a lot about that at the moment. I think that's about it.
Yeah, so I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, have I got it dirty already? But there's some cool speckles that go in it too as well. But yeah, everyone's going to have to get their own if they want to check that out. Yeah. So every single week on the Record Club, we kick things off with a question from one of our many amazing independent record stores from across the UK. And this week's question comes from Wax and Beans in Bury. They have said, you have a gorgeous song on the Bright soundtrack called Hairs on the Mountain.
Yes.
Are there more soundtracks in the pipeline?
Currently, no. We've not done that much soundtrack work over the years because it's always quite a lot of them have ended up going quite badly wrong. I think it's something to do with working in films. In films, there's a lot of people involved in a film who get to have an opinion and get to give their 2 cents, and a lot of the time we've sort of done songs for films and then somewhere down the line somebody has gone, I'm not feeling it, and then it sort of doesn't happen. So we don't say yes to too much soundtrack stuff, but luckily, Bright was the opposite. It was very easy, very nice, and we did this little kind of folky cover song, Hairs on the Mountain, and in it went. So yeah.
Oh, amazing. I'm going to have to check that one out. That's actually one that's been brought to my attention. Obviously, thank you so much to everyone at Wax and Beans for your question. So we are celebrating National Album Day by looking at debut albums. And of course, you guys, 10 years. It's the 10-year anniversary of An Awesome Wave. Does it feel like it's been that long?
It doesn't really. I think that I think mainly it does feel like it has been that long, I mean, so much has changed in that time. We've kind of got families now, we're older, we're more settled, we're not, but then again, I do look at photos of us back then and think, man, I still in my head think I look like that, but actually I don't.
I was listening to the podcast, Things Will Get Better, which it's you that's put that together, isn't it?
Ultimately? It is, yeah.
And that must have been a ridiculous trip down memory lane, all about the album. And you even revisit your where you were at uni. Now, I went to uni 10 years ago. And so for me as well, when I was listening, I was like, this is crazy. It feels like I'm actually walking back into sort of my freshers mode and dipping back into that mindset. How was it? How was it for you?
Yeah, it was really fun. We went on this kind of like long walk around Leeds. We went to our old student house in Hyde Park, which was really nice. It was quite funny. I didn't know how to get in touch with the current residents other than by writing them a letter, because all I knew was the address. So it seems like really incredibly eccentric to send them a letter, but that's what I did. And luckily, the tenants emailed me back straight away, and we set it up, and we got to go on all around the house, which was amazing. It was the house where we did our first gigs, the house where we wrote quite a lot of the first album. So that was really cool. And then we sort of popped into various like Hyde Park institutions like the Brudenell Social Club and Popina's, the Greasy Spoon, and a couple of other pubs and things. So it was really fun. And then just generally on the podcast, it was just nice to kind of just take the time to sit down and reminisce and feel grateful, as everybody says these days, show gratitude, and it was really lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of pleased it worked out, because when you say on the podcast, you say that you sent a letter, and I was like, imagine if it's just like, it's not students anymore, and you don't like, I don't know, they don't respond in the way that you want. Like they're like, oh, we don't know.
It's true. It's very true. It's true. I think that the thing is, I don't know about where you went to uni, but in Leeds, like there are certain houses that are just student houses. They're not owned by the university, but they're just. There was no doubt in my mind that it would still be a student house. I think there's no, it's a 7 bedroom, massive kind of terraced house, which
Yeah.
I just thought I would have been amazed if it wasn't students. And it was funny. It was funny how like we went in there and we were looking around, and you think you sort of don't realize how much you've changed in terms of like, I don't think I ever had a big like change in my attitude, but I definitely used to. This house was super messy. It was quite funny, really, and I was like, God, I know that our houses would have been exactly like that when we were students, but I don't know what changed. But at some point, we started hoovering.
And a lot of the making and sort of performing of the tunes that kind of started in that house, does it make you think like, that the conditions then, obviously you had a lot of time because you're at uni, but like the conditions of you writing and making an album is so different, but has like the process must be so widely different, but then you must feel like when you go back there, do you feel like inspired when you're back there, basically?
I mean, I don't think we felt inspired exactly. It wasn't like, oh, I feel a song coming on kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I think it was a good reminder, yeah, of like how lucky we were to be in that situation. We were, we didn't have to have, we didn't have to really worry about like paying the rent. That's not to say that we didn't have money worries, but it's like we had our student loans. We kind of, there was a sort of this 3 year, university. Okay, you have to do some work, and you should ideally do lots of work, but on the whole, it's a sort of free opportunity to like try new things and meet new people, and do creative projects or do whatever if it's sport, if it's music, if it's journalism, whatever you're interested in, to try it, and without too much pressure to. Because once you sort of leave university, it's very hard. You might be working a really difficult job trying to forge a career, and suddenly that time to like start a band or give like rowing a go is not really possible anymore. So it was a nice reminder of like of how lucky we were back then, and I suppose how lucky we've gone on to be as well.
There was an interesting bit of advice in there as well. It was like, if you were going to uni trying to start a band, maybe you should do a creative course over doing like a music course, because people may be more open to be creative with other people's ideas as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't want to like rubbish any bands that are formed of music students at all, but I suppose I think that yeah, there's a kind of history in this country certainly of people forming bands at like art school and stuff. And sometimes people who study music, and I speak as like a classically trained musician myself, often have often perhaps think about more things in a more traditional kind of like way of this is how it's done, this is how it's not done. And I think the fact that as a band when we got together, it was kind of I was the only one who really had any kind of like formal musical training, I suppose, and reading music and theory and that kind of thing. And luckily, I think it was helpful for me to have that, but I think it helped more that the other three guys were basically like sort of painters and conceptual artists who also had an interest in music.
Yeah. Also, like later, I don't want to talk obviously all about the podcast, but I mean it is about the album. But you speak to Charlie Andrew as well, the producer of the
Yeah,
record,
yeah.
and he mentions about recording Breeze Blocks in 2 days and how he has to like he thinks that he needs to go back to like mix it properly, and then when he does, it kind of lost its charm a little bit, so he just left it as was. Does this ever still happen with you guys, or like do you ever leave a track feeling quite raw anymore?
Yeah, we do. I mean, there's certainly things like on. I'm trying to think of an example from our new album, but yeah, quite often there's stuff that we'll do in when the way that we write a lot now is we get together in a sort of writing space, not unlike the shed I'm in right now, which is my friend Sam. And we'll demo stuff. We'll start by making demos using Ableton or something, and we'll quite often those recordings, elements of those recordings, end up on the actual tracks because essentially there's a magic there, which sometimes the word magic gets used a lot in studio, almost to the point where it's become a sort of massive cliche, really. But sometimes there is this magic that gets captured that you think, well, why would we try and redo that if it already sounds, good? It might be a tiny bit rough. For example, like on our song 3 Words, which is on the third album, there's an intro which we recorded just ourselves, and you can actually hear there's something called click bleed on it, where you can hear the metronome in Joe's headphones when he's singing. That's too loud, so it's come out through the headphones. He clearly wasn't using Bowers and Wilkins; he's using an inferior brand. And it's bled with vocal mic, but that's actually on the album, and we kind of like thought, okay, that's like almost like number one rule of like good recording: don't have click bleed. But we sort of left it on there, and just as a kind of because we thought it was quite cool, really.
It's one of those things as well that you can't replicate, or if you actually, I don't know, you listen to it, and even though it wasn't meant to happen, it's kind of like it forms part of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Charlie took a bit of convincing, obviously, because I think as a producer, he was like, "Oh, other producers are going to hear this and be like, what's Andrew done here?" But in the end, it was we all agreed it was quite nice.
When you, I mean, obviously we're celebrating 10 years of the album, but like previous to this year, did you ever return to the album? Like, did you ever listen back to the album?
Not very much, no. Okay, no, not very much at all, actually. And it was cool because we did a gig in May at Brixton Academy where we played the album in full, and there was a couple of tracks that we've not played since 2013 probably. And I hadn't really listened to those songs like Murs and Handmade in a really long time, and so it was lovely. It was a really nice thing for me actually to go back to that album because I think I got used to because we've always kept most of An Awesome Wave in our live set throughout the course of our career. I think I sort of thought, oh, I know An Awesome Wave back to front, and actually I'd forgotten a couple of tracks that we don't play, and it was lovely to get to know them again.
So they bring back memories for you, like in the same way, you know how some people say, oh, like particular songs bring back a sort of time and a place. Those songs that you hadn't revisited, did they sort of bring you back as well? Did they bring back any memories?
I mean, there was the song I mentioned just now. Miz was one of the last songs we wrote for that album. We wrote it when we were all living in a house in Cambridge together after we left Leeds, and that was a very, very, very cash short period of our lives. I would say we were like all on the dole, very, very short of money, and and it was kind of funny. We had to sort of ration food. Like we'd go and do a big shop once a week, and it was like there were sort of rules in the house, like no, just like going to the fridge and eating cheese. Like if you're a bit peckish, like that was not allowed. So it sort of reminds me of that period a bit, that 6 month period of rationing that we went through.
God, that must have been so hard. I can't believe you guys, that's so disciplined of you all.
Yeah, I mean, I think we knew at the time, when you were young, you can do things like that, you don't really care. And I think we also knew that good things were happening. Like we already had a manager by then. We had Charlie producing us. We were building a team and we were building a career really. So I think a bit of cheese rationing seemed like it won't be like this forever, lads. And I'm happy to say I've never rationed my cheese ever since.
Ever since, yeah, good.
Hence
Good
why
for
I don't look
you.
like I did. Hence why I don't look the same as I did in my photos from 2012.
Cut back on that cheese.
Yeah.
If you had to reinvent one of the songs on the album now, which of those songs would you like to do that to? What would you change?
Good question. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I think that it would be fun to like Matilda is a song that I think that I like playing it because I like the response it gets, and I know that it's a lot of people's favorite song, not just our song, but like ever song ever really, I think. But I don't find it the most electrifying song to play live as a musician. So I think perhaps it'd be fun to go back and do Matilda again and write myself a slightly more interesting part to play, because I essentially quite often during that song I zone out and forget whether we've done like the second chorus or not, and I sort of have a minor freak out on stage of shit, whereabouts are we in the song? I swear. Yeah.
It's fine. That's so funny. Okay, right, guys at home, remember you can ask any question you like about An Awesome Wave, the reissue, or what we have Gus from Alt J here, so you can ask anything you like. Yeah, we were basically obviously because we're talking about debut albums, and I feel like there are so many debut albums where maybe artists kind of like feel like they just need to get them out like really quickly. Did you ever feel like you guys were in a rush to get out that album because you guys practiced so much together at uni throughout uni? Like sometimes it's like people want to get it out of the way a little bit.
Yeah, I think that we nearly made a big mistake when we were at uni of like signing a sort of record deal with some people who, to be fair to them, have gone on to be very successful in the music industry, but at the time were like students like us. They sort of were going to set up a record label. There was this whole plan of we're going to set up a label, and we sort of agreed to like sign with them. And luckily, we never put pen to paper, so we were okay to like once. But I think I think we were kind of eager like to make an album and to like do it. But I think it's really good that we didn't go down that route because we were not ready and we didn't have enough good songs at that point. We had some good songs, but we didn't have a whole album's worth of good songs. And so luckily we waited a couple more years and then did it sort of the proper way. But yeah.
I reckon it's interesting because maybe if you had squeezed it out early, potentially some of the favorites or like fan favorites that you had that didn't make the album, like Portrait, maybe would have gone on then, then it would have a different. I feel like almost like now, not that you can plan for 10 years on, but the fact that that's still a fan favorite and you can kind of release it now knowing that it was from that time. Or have you've not officially released it, have you?
No, we've not. No,
it's
just
not on the pod.
I love how much you've listened to the podcast. Thank you. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, and who knows? Maybe we would have done that, and we would have made a blinding album, an even better album. Who can say? We'll never know. And you're right. It probably would have had different songs on it, and that's just it's the flap of it's a sliding doors moment, I suppose. But yeah. Anyway, I think we probably made the right decision.
All right, so we have some fan questions coming in. Stanislaw on Alt J's page says, when you listen to An Awesome Wave, do you feel that 10 years of experience you could have done, with 10 years of experience you could have done something better, or do you think it is a perfect and complete work?
I don't think there's anything. I would never go so far as to call it perfect, but I think there's always a thing where you have to you have to say that something is complete at a certain point, don't you? And I think that had we spent 10 more years making that album, I don't think we would have made a better album. No, I think it's a perfect portrait. That's not a pun. Of us where we were at that time, and then, but I don't think it's necessarily our best album. I think it's an album that I'm very fond of, and I think it encapsulates where we were in 2012, I guess.
Jessica Smith on the Record Club's Facebook page says, which song on the album are you most proud of?
I think Tessellate is a pretty good calling card musically. If somebody said to me, particularly before we had 4 albums, if somebody wanted to hear one, if somebody hadn't heard of us and they're like, play some of your music, I might play them Tessellate. So yeah.
Yeah, Tessellate's pretty iconic. The music video for that, whose idea was that?
Oh, I don't remember. It's a boring answer. It might have been the director's idea, actually, I think.
Yeah.
But it's such a long time ago. I can't remember. But yeah, it's all like sort of based on this Greek painting, sort of a Greek painting come to life in in like the modern day or something. I haven't
I
watched
feel
it.
like
I haven't watched it in so long. Yeah.
well, I feel like it's one of those where it's like you watch it once and it kind of blows your mind a bit, so you will like never forget it. Like
Yeah.
that's it. Always just like when I play the song, I just like I literally like see it straight away.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Nice.
go watch
Nice.
it back.
Yeah. I will.
Who do we have? Millie on the Record Club's Facebook page saying, "How did this album winning the Mercury Prize affect your career?"
Well, it affected it very positively. I mean, I think that the Mercury Prize was kind of like the sort of crowning achievement of a pretty amazing year for us. You know, stuff was already going really well for us by then. You know, the album had charted and sort of stayed in the charts for a long time. We'd done, you know, our first Reading and Glastonbury and that kind of thing, and Latitude and stuff, and it was all kind of like just peaking and peaking. Then we went off to America for 6 weeks and did a tour there, which was pretty unforgettable. Sold out all these gigs, and then kind of came back in November and won the Mercury, and it was like, what a year. So I don't know, you know, I think that I think it's been good. I think it's been very good, and I'm a big fan of the Mercury Prize for sure.
Do you know, or are you backing anyone on this year's list?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I think there's lots of good albums on there, you know, like, but I mean, Self Esteem seems like the one to put money on, if you ask me. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm allowed to comment on that actually, but yeah, I feel like it's really strong this year.
Yeah.
So we have Stephen on the Record Club's page who says, "I've seen you guys live a few times now. Blood Flood is one of my favorite songs of all time. Is there a reason you don't generally perform it?"
We perform it quite a lot, but I think, you know, there comes a point where you have to kind of like you have to, you know, it's like choosing between your kids really. And you know, we have 4 albums now. We try to make room for songs from all the albums. We still play, as I say, most of the first album at every gig, but sometimes Blood Flood. I suppose just because it was never like a proper single, and it was, you know, it's one of the slowest. It's on the slower side. So I think it's just, you know, sometimes you just want to play bangers. But yeah, Blood Flood, absolutely. Glad you like it, and it's one of my favorites too.
We also have Maggie on the Record Club's Facebook page. Each album has its own unique flow and vibe. Is that something that occurs naturally as you're writing songs, or do you guys plan that out in advance and write it with that in mind?
Thank you very much. I think that you'd be surprised how quickly we sometimes put together the track listings for the albums. You know, essentially, we get asked about this kind of thing a lot. You know, and I think there's this kind of misconception that artists like write albums, but in our case, certainly, we basically just write songs, and then all the songs that you write in a certain period of time become an album. And then we sort of generally sit down. What we'll usually do is write all the songs on a bit of A4 paper, cut it up into strips, and then just like sit down and in different orders, and eventually we find one that works. And usually it takes us about 20 minutes. So it's not it's sometimes that flowing magic is more you know, it's just it sounds good because that's the way it is. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes rather than there's probably an argument that it would sound good in almost any order. Although certain songs do scream out for being maybe like track 1 on an album, let's say, you know.
I like that. I feel like you guys are really on the same page when it comes to like 20 minutes feels like it's not a long discussion.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's also just that when you get to, it's always quite nice because it's that you're generally doing that when you're at the end of an album process, and so everyone's feeling pretty positive. It's like, we've done a new album, brilliant, and but also everyone's quite keen to like move on with their lives and, you know, not spend like days and days going back and forth. You know, it's like everyone's happy. Let's go for a pint and sort the album track listing out, and then go home and not think about the album for a little bit.
All right. Well, Gus, thank you so much for joining us. Before I let you go, because it is National Album Day this Saturday, of course, we're celebrating debut albums as well. I want to know what your top 3 debut albums are, in your opinion.
Okay. Well, today, my top 3 debut albums, I've gone for Tom Veck's first album, We Have Sound, which came out in, I think, 2004, 2005, just like very quite pioneering album, blending sort of dance music and rock. Still something I listen to a lot. Secondly, I've gone for Alas, I Cannot Swim by Laura Marling. I love Laura Marling, and I know that she kind of disowns this album a bit because she was so young when she came out. When it came out, I think she was 16. But I still think it's an album with massive emotional maturity, and some essentially every song is pretty gorgeous. Speaking of emotional maturity, for my third album, I've gone for Famous First Words by Viva Brother. They were a band sort of burst onto the scene in 2011, burst off the scene later in 2011, but me and our guitar tech Jack put this album on a lot when we go to the gym on tour, and it just always makes me happy. And I'm good friends with the guys who were in Brother, and just makes me think of my mates basically. So yeah,
such a shame that they like disbanded, but at the same time you have like that capsule in an album day.
I think they've never officially broken up, shall we say? So there could be more Brother music one of these days. That's all I'll say.
So that is it for today, Gus from Alt
Nice.
Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to treat yourself to an anniversary reissue of An Awesome Wave.
Absolutely, whichever way up it goes. Thanks for having me on.
That one.
Right, you nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay, good. Make sure to get one from your local record store. Of course, Saturday, National Album Day on the 15th of October. Also excited to announce that the winner of this week's Bowers & Wilkins Wireless Headphones Prize is Stephen Bainbridge on the Record Club's page. So slide into the Record Club's DMs. We'll get those headphones to you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, sending in your questions. Our next guest is going to be announced on the Record Club's social media very soon. So make sure you're following us, and all previous episodes are available to watch back on our YouTube channel. Gus, thank you so much. And
thank you very much again. Bye.
We'll see you soon. Yeah.
Bye.